Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who finds it impossible not to sing the Goo Goo Dolls when they're playing in his car. It's John Levingood.
I'm trying to think of a line now. It's funny. I know so many of their songs, but I should just be able to come out with one.
And I don't want the world
to see me.
You just belt that. At one time, I was driving through Tampa, and we were going to meet up, but I heard you singing from 3 lanes down, and you were just belting out. You were just belting out some Iris.
I believe that.
Screaming it. Our former host, John Lazarvath, also, whenever Goo Goo Dolls is on the radio, he just screams as loud as he can.
Goo Goo Dolls were so popular. I mean, if you were into that, style of music, but I mean, that was so popular when we were in high school in the mid-late 90s. Like, they were just pounding out hits.
When City of Angels came out with Meg Ryan on a bicycle movie.
Dude.
And then Iris played over it.
Yeah.
That was big. I remember when movie trailers used to have live playing and Goo Goo Dolls. I miss 90s music over trailers. Now they cover all of them.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I said that is because in Devon Sawa's room in this movie, there is a Goo Goo Dolls poster.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I didn't just pull that out of nowhere. And there was also a Buck Cherry one. I was going to say that you're listening to the first Buck Cherry album on cassette on your Walkman right now.
I had that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
CD players? For college, man. When I was in college, I studied the Coldplay Live 2004, and I listened to, I don't know. That was about it in the library. I was a lit major, so I would just read and write, listen to Coldplay Live 2004, John.
I remember being made fun of in high school for having a Walkman when everyone else had a Discman.
Yeah, but you were big then, right? So you didn't have to worry about it.
I mean, I was tall. I wasn't very heavy. I probably weighed like 160 pounds when I first hit 6'3".
But I bet you owned it. You weren't self-consciously listening to it, were you?
I was probably pretty self-conscious.
Well, Walkmans were better than Discmans walking around, if you think about it.
That's true. Yeah. Because you wouldn't get any of those skips.
Exactly. You're walking around with a Discman. You're in trouble. We're going old school. But this movie, so this comes out in 2000. This movie, John, Final Destination, it's kind of ahead of its time when you think about Saw, Hostel, the quote-unquote torture porn movies. This started off in 2000 as kind of a just watching people die type film in inventive ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely death scene driven. I feel like it stands apart. Well, and I say death scene driven. I'm sure someone out there is screaming like at their computer listening to us, saying like every horror scene is death scene. Every horror movie is death scene driven. But it's like this movie though. Like I really ride the wave of the anticipation of the death scene. The everything building up to it is kind of like a roller coaster, and it's kind of a fun roller coaster. There's fun tension. There's anxiety, but it's doesn't have you like upset or I don't know how to put it. It's whereas like Saw, you would dread. Your anticipation was utter dread. You were horrified of what was going to happen. And those are fun movies to watch, but that is not as much of a fun ride to me. So I feel like, you know what I mean? Like Final Destination,
like
really...
Mousetrap. You know that game with all the traps, and it's just kind of you're watching it. This movie, you can't really take. I don't know how you feel, but in Saw, there's that scene where the lady sticks her hand through the metal and she cuts her wrist open while trying to go through like something, or a lady gets thrown into syringes. Those are cringe-tastic. In this one, you're laughing because Death started a leak and started following a guy around a bathroom. Death caused a crack on a cup, which then somehow lit vodka on fire, which is only 80 proof. That people are harking on that, but who cares? Maybe she drank very strong vodka. So that's lit on fire. I had fun with these kills. And as absurd they were, do you think the filmmakers were going for ratcheting up the tension, or you're just kind of laughing at all the occurrences that are leading towards this?
Somewhere in between, right? But again, like if I use Saw, and it's funny you mentioned Saw, because I talk a lot about Saw back when I reviewed this, and I always think about Saw when I think about these elaborate build-ups to death scenes, right? But like I think of Final Destination as the thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
Whereas when talking about the death scene, this is the thrill of the chase. Whereas in Saw, it is the dread of the execution.
There it is.
Like it just, someone's going to, hand wave me that it's semantics, but that's kind of like my gut feeling. This is different. This is having more fun with us. At least the first Final Destination is. But then again, that's like the Saws, right? The first Saw was so much more elegant and subtle in its execution. Both the first Saw and this movie do not really rely much on special effects. There's a lot of blood, but I mean, you know, these first movies in Saw and Final Destination, they were both so much more subdued and tactful than their relative sequels, right? Because in both these franchises, then they were kind of high on their own product. Yeah. But the first ones, man, they were tactful. They were restrained.
I think that's a great point. And I was just trying to think of any of the Saw movies after one that I actually enjoyed. You enjoy them. For a while, I thought they weren't connected. Then you gave this epic speech to me one day about how they were connected. Then you changed my mind on them, but I don't really want to watch them again.
If you don't watch the Saw movies in close temporal proximity, they will seem very loosely connected when really they are some of the most richly connected horror sequels like out there, dude. But yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, they, despite all the writing that went into them, though, again, they turned it into torture porn, whereas the first one wasn't. And despite all the blood we have in Final Destination 1, it wasn't a gore fest like the later ones were, with people getting, you know, like dismembered all over the place and guts pouring out. Like, there's just some stabs.
And one of the greatest bus smushes of all time.
Right, and even then, you don't see. This is like when we always talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. How like when you think back to when you were a kid, that movie was just like horridly brutal on screen. But then when you watch it, there's like, it's brutal in its tactful execution. But there's like not guts. There's not much blood until the very, very end. And that bus smush, of all the bus smushes in the horror genre, that is like the fastest, quickest, see the least body explosion.
And it's like, body explosion.
That's what I assume. Like, again, in my memory, she exploded. But then when I watched it again the other day for, you know, in preparation for this episode, I watched it twice. And then every time, like, oh, here it comes. It's like, oh, I thought there was more.
That's my second favorite kill in this entire series. And you know my first one. And we'll save it for when we talk about that episode.
Sure. No, that's a great kill. That's so memorable. But especially just the build-up when she's talking about, I will not let, you know, this plane crash be the most important thing in my life.
Smush. You know what's interesting? That scene got audiences so crazy that in reshoots, they filmed the Alka-Seltzer scene with Devon Sawa and Ali Larter just to calm audiences down. Because they tried to go into another scene, and audiences were so jacked up from that. They said people I'm not saying it was like Deep Blue Sea when Sam Jackson got eaten, but people were just screaming for minutes. So they're like, we need something to calm them during reshoots, they added that the scene where they're drinking the Alka-Seltzer. So they had to calm audiences down. You know the original ending of this movie, John?
The original ending? No, I don't think so.
So they filmed a scene when they're on the beach. Ali Larter, I guess, should we say Clear Rivers and Alex, they have sex, and he ends up like impregnating Clear. So when he dies when he grabs the electrical thing at the end. He gets toasted to a crispy critter, and she ends up having the baby. And then the whole cycle's done. So that's the whole ending of that movie.
Yeah. I remember hearing the commentary with the director, one of the producers and the writer. They were talking about how that didn't fly well with test audiences, which is interesting because that became such a crux in I think it was in part 2.
Yeah, because they wanted to have the kid, right?
But that's great because then that was a good, I'm using the word gimmick, but I don't mean it negatively, but that was a good gimmick, a good twist for the plot in the second movie for them to kind of rely on, and you're racing to make sure they have that child. But yeah, in this, I don't think it would have worked as well.
So after kind of listening to the commentary, the one thing I'm kind of bummed about is, all right, so I like this movie because they're trying to figure out what's going on. But once you kind of hear of everything that's in the background of, you know, just how much foreshadowing there is in this movie, it's, you start seeing it everywhere, and it gets not annoying, but it takes you out of the movie because you're like, oh, there's a dagger by her. That dagger. Oh, there's something on the computer screen that's gonna kill her later. There's this there. There's that there. That's gonna kill them. Oh, this guy's in the bathroom. You know, hey man, I gotta go take a poop. And then he goes to the bathroom again to take a poop, and he chokes to death. It's interesting. Like, there's so much. Like, the guy's name is Todd, T-O-D, which means death in German.
Does it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 1D. And so, like, but then once you know it, you're looking at everything going, oh, that's going to be something. That's going to be. Did that affect you at all? Even though we'd seen it 3-4 times. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of fun. I like that. And even though it's a totally different level of intensity, that was why I love Paranormal Activity, because you're sitting around waiting for something to happen. So you're just staring at the screen. Most people hated that though, right? Because it was so slow. But I loved that it totally like dominates your senses where you're paying attention to everything. I really enjoy those kinds of films, the ones that challenge your attention.
This is interesting. I want to see what you think. In today's culture, a lot of people are on their cell phones when they're in films. But these movies, think about Paranormal Activity, Saw, Final Destination. You're watching these for any hint of what's going to happen. Saw, you're kind of in anticipation of what's going to happen. Paranormal Activity, you're like, I have to watch a screen because if I miss it, it's going to wreck the experience. Do you think those movies captured attentions more than the average horror film that's more like a stalker or a slasher type picture?
Well, it certainly did for me, and I know it did for a lot of people. But again, with Paranormal Activity, though, again, because of the pacing, I knew that Paranormal Activity turned a lot of people off. I think that, though, using the same mechanism, I think it turned most people on. I can't remember ever talking to anyone or seeing in any like the 100 Facebook groups I'm in on for horror movies on Facebook. I can't remember anyone posting anything about Final Destination and having someone say, the movie sucked, but almost any movie that someone posts, though, there are always those people like, yes, it was derivative. Oh, I hated it. It was like, whereas Final Destination, I can't think of that. Now, Paranormal Activity, though, the movie was boring. Oh, nothing ever, people complain about it. And by the way, listeners, if you complain, we all have our taste. I'm just saying that, there's always people who dislike almost any movie you bring up. I don't have that recollection with Final Destination, the first one.
Do you think there's a lot of nostalgia involved? So people our age, we watched, so I was 18 when this came out. This is a perfect 18-year-old movie. And do you think I guess there's a bunch of young people on these Facebook groups, so I don't know the ages. But I think maybe for people in our age bracket, there's a certain, oh yeah, man, that was awesome. I remember watching that in high school. Does that make sense?
Oh, of course, yeah. And that helps a lot with our love of like any movie, right? But I think these Facebook groups are pretty diverse in age, because you got those horror fans who are in their 50s who go spend like $500 getting 8 autographs and photographs and sign my Freddy glove and everything. And honestly, when I think of horror conventions, I think that they're catering more to our age group than the younger age groups.
Oh, for sure.
You're not getting Micah Monroe signing It Follows there. You're getting still Robert Englund and Kane Hodder and Tony Todd and Linnea Quigley.
What modern movie would you want to get a photo with the cast?
Oh, God.
That's a good question, man.
God. I'm about to have an aneurysm. Like, I just think of something that really hit me. I think of something that more was impactful to me than something that I think was that I loved. I think of the Hereditaries.
Okay. I just want everyone to know, as soon as I asked John that question, he froze, and now this is 2 days later. Then we had to pick the podcast back up.
But yeah, no, that's a very challenging, difficult question. Yeah.
that would have been cool to get the cast of Green Room with like Anton Yelchin, because I love that film.
Evil Dead remake.
Let's see. Maybe the cast of Climax, because they could just start dancing at any time.
I haven't seen that.
That's a gnarly one right there. Jeez Louise. All right. We're gonna answer this, John. Let's do it. All right. So some of my favorite. You know what? Insidious. I would get Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne.
Great cast too. The Conjuring. Then I want to play.
Lynn Shay, Tucker and Specs. That guy, one of those guys directed Upgrade. The other guys is a big name. So I would want to get the cast of Insidious. Let me in.
Yeah, no. Once you said that, I'm like, oh shit, The Conjuring. or for a fun group, Cooties.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Rainn Wilson, Elijah Wood, Lee Wannell again, and what's her name? Alison
Pill.
Oh my God, Zombieland.
Oh yeah, I like Insidious. Bone Tomahawk.
Because we get to sit down with Kurt Russell.
P. Dibs. Patrick Wilson, Richard Jenkins. Dude, I've never gotten a photo op. For all my years working comic conventions, I never got a photo with someone.
The one I did was the one that you just shoved me in on my first con.
Hey, John, go get this picture.
And I was just like, I did not know who the guy was.
Patrick Stewart?
No.